The strange babysitter. Jack was having one of those days. His babysitter had canceled at the last minute, leaving him scrambling to find someone to watch his 4-year-old son, Sam. Jack had an important presentation at work, and staying home wasn't an option. He scrolled through a babysitting app he had never used before, desperate for help. The app was called Star Sitters, and its tagline read, "For extraordinary care, choose Star Sitters." Jack barely read the details. All he cared about was that they had a 5-star rating and could send someone immediately. He tapped Book Now and filled in his address. 15 minutes later, his doorbell rang. When Jack opened the door, he froze. Standing on his doorstep was a tall woman with strange, glowing eyes. Her skin was smooth, almost too perfect, and had a faint silvery sheen. She wore a sleek black outfit that didn't look like anything Jack had ever seen. "Hello," she said in a calm, almost musical voice. "I am Zara, your babysitter." Jack blinked. Is this a prank?" Zara tilted her head slightly, her expression serene. "No prank. You requested a babysitter, and I have arrived." She glanced past Jack and saw Sam peeking out from behind his father's legs. "Hello, Sam." Sam giggled and waved. "Hi. Are you a robot?" "No," Zara replied with a small smile. "But I am here to take care of you." Jack hesitated, his mind racing. She didn't look like a typical babysitter. In fact, she didn't look human at all. But he was out of options, and Sam seemed curious rather than scared. "I guess you're here from the app?" Jack asked, trying to sound normal. "Yes," Zara replied. "You can trust me. Your child is safe with me." Her words were oddly comforting, though Jack couldn't explain why. With a deep breath, he nodded. "Okay, fine. But I'll call to check in." Zara nodded. "Of course. You will not be disappointed." As Jack drove to work, his mind kept replaying the moment he opened the door. Who, or what, was Zara? Was this safe? He shook his head, telling himself he was just being paranoid. The app had good reviews, right? Back at home, Sam was already showing Zara his toy collection. "This is my rocket ship," he said, holding up a plastic model. "I want to go to space one day." Zara knelt down to his level, her glowing eyes softening. "You are very special, Sam. One day, you might go farther than space." Sam's eyes widened. "Farther than space? Like where?" Zara smiled mysteriously. "You will see." As they played, Zara held out her hand, and the toy rocket began to hover in midair. Sam gasped, clapping his hands. "How did you do that? Are you magic?" "Not magic," Zara said. "Just advanced skills." Sam laughed, completely fascinated. He didn't notice the faint hum in the air or the way the lights in the room flickered slightly. Meanwhile, Jack sat in his car outside the office, unable to stop thinking about Zara. His gut told him to go back and check, but he also didn't want to seem overprotective. "She's just a babysitter," he muttered to himself. "A really weird babysitter." But as he pulled into the parking lot, his phone buzzed. It was a text from his security camera app. Unusual activity detected at home. Jack frowned and opened the app. The footage showed Zara sitting cross-legged in the living room with Sam. She wasn't doing anything alarming, just holding a strange device that looked like a glowing orb. "What the?" Jack whispered. Before he could watch more, the app glitched, and the screen went black. Jack's heart pounded. He started the car and turned around, heading straight home. Back at the house, Sam was still playing happily. Zara watched him closely, her serene expression never changing. Then she tilted her head slightly, as if hearing something. Sam noticed. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing, little one," Zara said, but her voice had a hint of tension now. She stood up and moved to the window, peering outside. Her glowing eyes flickered briefly, scanning the street. Jack's car screeched into the driveway, and he burst through the door moments later. "All right, What's going on? He demanded, pointing a finger at Zanara. What is that thing you were holding? Zanara turned to face him, calm as ever. It is a tool for monitoring. Monitoring what? Jack snapped. Zanara paused. Your child is special. He is important. I am here to protect him. Jack stared at her, trying to process what she had just said. Protect him? From what? Zanara didn't answer. Instead, she looked at Sam, who was watching them with wide eyes. I will explain everything soon. For now, trust me. Jack opened his mouth to argue, but a sudden loud hum filled the room. The lights flickered again, this time more violently. What is that? Jack asked, panic rising in his voice. Zanara's eyes glowed brighter. They are watching us. Who's watching? Jack shouted. Zanara stepped closer to him, her calm demeanor unshaken. If you want to protect your son, you need to listen to me. This is only the beginning. An alien revelation. Jack paced back and forth in his living room, his heart racing. Zanara stood calmly by the window, her glowing eyes scanning the darkness outside. Sam sat on the couch, obliviously playing with his toy rocket, humming a tune. The air felt thick with tension, as though the room itself was holding its breath. Jack finally broke the silence. All right, enough of this weirdness. Who are you? What are you? And what's going on with my kid? Zanara turned to face him, her expression unreadable. I told you, I am here to protect Sam. Protect him? Protect him from what? Jack's voice rose, his frustration boiling over. I hired a babysitter, not whatever this is. Zanara tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. Then she spoke, her voice softer now. You are right to be confused. Most humans would be. But you must understand, Sam is not just a child. He is extraordinary. Jack's brow furrowed. What do you mean? He's just a regular kid. He likes cartoons and cookies and running around pretending to be a superhero. What could possibly be extraordinary about that? Zanara stepped closer, her presence somehow both calming and unsettling. Sam is unique because of what he carries within him, a rare genetic marker that has not been seen in millennia. It is a key, one that could unlock something far greater than you can imagine. Jack blinked, trying to process her words. Genetic marker? What are you talking about? He's just a kid. His mom was. Jack stopped himself, his voice catching. Zanara's gaze softened. Your late wife. She was part of this, though she may not have known it. Her lineage carries a connection to an ancient alliance of species across the galaxy. That connection lives on in Sam. Jack stared at her, his head spinning. This is insane. You're telling me my son is some kind of alien? No, Zanara said gently. He is human, but he is also much more than that. Jack shook his head. You expect me to believe this? That my kid is part of some intergalactic prophecy or something? Before Zanara could answer, Sam piped up from the couch. Daddy, I've been dreaming about stars. Both adults turned to look at him. Jack knelt in front of his son. What do you mean, buddy? Sam shrugged, holding up his toy rocket. In my dreams, I see lots of stars. They talk to me. They say, we're waiting for you. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. Why didn't you tell me this before? Sam frowned. I thought it was just pretend. Zanara stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on Sam. It is not pretend. The stars are calling because they know who you are, Sam. Jack stood up, running a hand through his hair. This is too much. Dreams, prophecies, genetic markers. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, lady, but I want answers. Real ones. Zanara nodded. Then I will show you. She reached into a hidden compartment on her suit and pulled out a small spherical device. It glowed faintly, emitting a soft hum. She placed it on the coffee table, and a holographic image projected into the air. A vast, swirling galaxy with dozens of interconnected star systems. This, Zanera said, pointing to the center of the hologram, is what they are after. A weapon, hidden in the heart of an ancient star system. Your son is the only one who can unlock it. Jack stepped back, his face pale. A weapon? What kind of weapon? A weapon of unimaginable power, Zanera said, but also a tool of peace, depending on how it is used. That is why Sam is in danger. There are factions out there, dangerous ones, who will stop at nothing to find him and use him to access this weapon. Jack's legs felt weak. He sank into a chair, staring at the hologram. This can't be real. It is, Zanera said firmly. And the ones who seek him have already found us. As if on cue, the house lights flickered violently. A deep rumbling hum filled the air, and the floor trembled beneath their feet. Jack looked out the window and saw a dark shape hovering in the sky. A ship, sleek and menacing, its red lights glowing like eyes in the night. They're here, Zanera said quietly. Jack's heart pounded. What do we do? Zanera's eyes glowed brighter, her voice steady and calm. We fight. And we run. But first, you must decide. Do you trust me? Jack looked at Sam, who was now clutching his toy rocket tightly, his wide eyes filled with fear and wonder. Then he looked at Zanera, whose calm confidence seemed unshakable. With a deep breath, Jack stood up. Fine. Let's get out of here. But if anything happens to my son, nothing will happen to him, Zanera interrupted. Not while I'm here. She grabbed the glowing sphere from the table, and the hologram vanished. Stay close to me. And whatever you do, do not look back. Jack grabbed Sam's hand, his heart racing as Zanera led them toward the back door. The hum of the ship grew louder, and the house shook as something landed nearby. This is only the beginning, Zanera said as they stepped outside. Your lives will never be the same. And with that, they disappeared into the night. The child's secret. The small spacecraft soared through the night sky, cutting through the clouds like a knife. Jack sat stiffly in the co-pilot's seat, gripping the armrests with white knuckles, his heart pounding in his chest. Sam was strapped into a chair behind him, eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. Zanera, calm and collected as always, piloted the ship with an ease that only deepened Jack's unease. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. Jack finally found his voice. Okay, I've had enough of this cryptic nonsense. I want answers, and I want them now. Zanera didn't turn to face him, her glowing eyes fixed on the controls. You already know the truth, Jack. You're just afraid to accept it. Afraid. Jack barked a humorless laugh. You kidnapped me and my son in a flying tin can, told me he's some kind of cosmic key to an alien weapon, and now we're being hunted by a spaceship full of… what? Space assassins. Yeah, I think I have the right to be afraid. Zanera finally turned, her glowing gaze locking onto his. You should not be afraid for yourself. You should be afraid for Sam. His future, and the future of countless worlds, depends on what happens next. Jack's frustration boiled over. You keep saying things like that, but you still haven't told me why my son is so special. What makes him such a big deal? Zanera's expression softened, though her voice remained steady. Sam is the only one in the universe who can unlock the Lumina core. Jack frowned. The what? Zanera pressed a button on the control panel, and a hologram appeared between them. It showed a bright, glowing sphere surrounded by intricate, shifting patterns of energy. The Lumina core is an ancient artifact hidden deep within the Andraxian star system. It holds the power to either create peace across the galaxy or destroy everything. It is protected by a code that only one being in the universe can break. Sam carries that code in his DNA. Jack stared at the hologram, his mind spinning. You're saying my son's… what? A key to some alien doomsday weapon? No, Zanera said firmly. He is a key to hope, but only if he learns to control his gift. Before Jack could respond, Sam spoke up from the back seat. What gift? Zanera turned to face the boy, her glowing eyes softening. "You've already felt it, haven't you, Sam? The dreams. The stars calling to you." Sam nodded slowly. "Sometimes I hear voices. They're not scary, though. They feel nice." Jack's chest tightened. "Why didn't you tell me about this, buddy?" Sam shrugged. "I thought it was just my imagination." "It is not your imagination," Zara said gently. "The voices are real. They are the echoes of the core, reaching out to you because it knows who you are." Sam frowned. "But why me?" Zara hesitated, as if choosing her words carefully. "Because you are special, Sam. You are the last descendant of a bloodline that was thought to be lost forever. Your ancestors were part of the Council of Stars, the ones who created the Lumina Core to protect the galaxy. But when war broke out, the core was hidden and your family's role was forgotten. Until now." Jack shook his head, disbelief written all over his face. "This is insane. You're telling me my son is some kind of chosen one because of some ancient alien bloodline? That's straight out of a bad sci-fi movie." "It is the truth," Zara said simply. Before Jack could argue further, the ship's console beeped loudly, and Zara's calm demeanor shifted. She pressed a series of buttons, her glowing eyes narrowing. "We have a problem." "What now?" Jack asked, his stomach sinking. Zara pointed to the hologram, which now displayed a flashing red dot closing in on their location. "The Kraloks have found us." "The Kraloks?" Jack asked, his voice rising. "Who the hell are the Kraloks?" "They are one of the factions hunting Sam," Zara said, her tone grim. "They want to use the Lumina Core to wipe out their enemies and take control of the galaxy." Sam's small voice broke through the tension. "Are they bad guys?" "Yes," Zara said, her voice gentle but firm. "And they will stop at nothing to capture you." Jack's protective instincts kicked in. "Well, they're not getting anywhere near him. What do we do?" Zara's hands flew over the controls. "We fight. Hold on to something." The ship suddenly jerked to the side as Zara engaged evasive maneuvers. Jack barely had time to grab onto the console before a bright red blast streaked past the window, narrowly missing the ship. Sam screamed, clutching his toy rocket tightly. "Daddy, I'm scared." Jack unbuckled his seatbelt and rushed to Sam, holding him close. "It's okay, buddy. I've got you." The ship shook violently as another blast hit the shields. Zara's voice cut through the chaos. "The Kralok ship is faster, but we have an advantage." "Sam." Jack blinked. "What do you mean, Sam?" Zara turned her glowing gaze toward the boy. "Sam, I need you to focus. Remember the voices you heard in your dreams. I need you to listen to them now." Sam looked at her with wide, frightened eyes. "But I don't know how." "Yes, you do," Zara said firmly. "Close your eyes. Trust yourself." Jack wanted to protest, but Zara's confidence silenced him. Sam closed his eyes, clutching his toy rocket tightly. The air around him seemed to hum with energy, and suddenly the ship's hologram changed. A glowing blue path appeared, showing a safe route through the stars. Zara smiled. "He did it." Jack stared in awe. What just happened?" "Sam is beginning to unlock his gift," Zara said. "But this is only the beginning." The ship sped down the glowing path, leaving the Kralok ship behind. For now, they were safe. But Jack knew their journey was far from over. The first attack. The quiet of space was shattered by the sudden screech of alarms echoing through the ship. Zara's calm, commanding voice cut through the chaos. "They found us again. Everyone, brace yourselves." Jack was thrown forward in his seat as the ship lurched violently. The lights flickered, and the faint hum of the engines faltered for a moment before roaring back to life. Sam clutched his toy rocket tightly, his small face pale with fear. "Who's found us?" Jack shouted, gripping the edge of the console as another blast rocked the ship. "The Kraloks," Zara said grimly. "Their drones have locked onto our location. They will not stop until they have Sam." Jack's protective instincts surged. Then we make sure they don't get him. What's the plan? Zanara's hands flew over the controls, her glowing eyes fixed on the holographic display. Their ship is faster, but this craft has advanced shielding. I will buy us time, but we cannot fight them for long. Jack's voice was tight with fear and frustration. You mean we're sitting ducks? Zanara turned to him, her expression unyielding. Not if we work together. Before Jack could respond, the ship shook again. This time, sparks flew from the ceiling, and Sam let out a terrified cry. Jack rushed to him, kneeling down and holding him close. It's okay, buddy. I've got you. Sam's voice trembled. Why are they chasing us, Daddy? What do they want? Jack glanced at Zanara, who was too focused on piloting to answer. He stroked Sam's hair, his heart aching. They're just bad guys, kiddo. But Zanara, and I won't let them hurt you. I promise. A deep rumble vibrated through the ship, followed by a mechanical voice from the console. Shields at 40%. Zanara's voice was steady, but her words carried urgency. We cannot outrun them for long. There's only one option. Jack frowned. And what's that? She turned to face him, her glowing eyes filled with an intensity that made Jack's stomach tighten. We fight. Fight. Jack scoffed. With what? This is a transport ship, not a battleship. Zanara smirked faintly, the first hint of emotion Jack had seen in her. You underestimate this vessel. It was designed for more than transport. She pressed a button on the console, and the hologram shifted to display a sleek compartment underneath the ship. Two glowing cannons emerged from the hull, humming with energy. Whoa, Jack muttered, his disbelief momentarily replaced with awe. Why didn't you mention that sooner? I was hoping we wouldn't need them, Zanara replied. But hope has its limits. As the cannons powered up, Zanara handed Jack a small device with glowing buttons. This will allow you to control the rear turret. Aim carefully and do not hesitate. Jack stared at the device, then at her. You want me to shoot at an alien spaceship? You wanted to protect your son, Zanara said simply. This is how you do it. Jack hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Fine. Let's do this. He strapped Sam into his seat and ruffled his hair. Stay here, buddy. I'll be right back. Sam grabbed his father's hand. Be careful, Daddy. Jack forced a smile. Always. Jack climbed into the rear turret station, a small compartment with a holographic targeting system. The controls felt strange in his hands, but he quickly figured out how to aim and fire. The turret swiveled smoothly as he scanned the darkness of space. Zanara, where are they? He called out. Directly behind us, she replied. Their drones are closing in. Focus on the smaller targets. I'll handle the mothership. Jack's heart pounded as he spotted the first drone, a sleek, spider-like craft with glowing red eyes. He lined up the shot and pressed the trigger. A bright blue blast erupted from the turret, striking the drone and causing it to explode in a shower of sparks. I got one, Jack shouted, a surge of adrenaline rushing through him. Good, Zanara said. Now keep going. The ship rocked again as another blast from the Kralox mothership struck the shields. Jack gritted his teeth, his focus narrowing as more drones appeared. He fired rapidly, taking out two more, but there were too many. Zanara, we're getting overwhelmed, he yelled. I know, she replied, her voice strained. But we're almost to the jump point. Hold them off a little longer. Jack didn't know what a jump point was, but he didn't have time to ask. He focused on shooting down the incoming drones, his arms aching from the effort. Sweat dripped down his forehead as the ship shook violently. In the cockpit, Zanara's fingers moved with precision across the controls. The jump point, a shimmering vortex of energy, was now visible on the holographic display. But the Kralox mothership was closing in fast. Sam watched her from his seat, his small hands gripping the armrests. Is Daddy gonna be okay? Zanara glanced at him, her glowing eyes softening. He's doing very well. You should be proud of him." Sam nodded, though his lip trembled. "Can I help?" Zara hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Not yet, but soon." As the jump point loomed closer, the Kralok's mothership fired a massive blast that rocked the entire ship. Jack nearly fell out of his seat, but he managed to take down the last of the drones. "Zara, we can't take another hit," he shouted. "Hold on," she called back. With a final push of the controls, Zara guided the ship into the jump point. The world outside the windows blurred into streaks of light as the ship accelerated beyond comprehension. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the shaking stopped. The ship floated in a calm, star-filled expanse. Jack stumbled back into the cockpit, breathing heavily. "Did we make it?" Zara nodded. "For now." Jack collapsed into a seat, his body trembling. Sam ran to him and threw his arms around him. "You're okay." Jack hugged his son tightly. "Yeah, buddy. I'm okay." Zara stood by the window, her glowing eyes scanning the stars. This was just the first attack. They will come again. And next time, they will be stronger. Jack looked at her, his jaw tightening. "Then we'd better be ready." Allies and betrayals. The hidden sanctuary was nothing like Jack had imagined. From the outside, it looked like a rocky, lifeless asteroid floating in deep space. But once Zara guided the ship through a shimmering energy barrier, the asteroid's interior revealed a bustling haven filled with advanced technology, glowing structures, and beings from countless alien species. Jack stared out the cockpit window, his mouth hanging open. "This is incredible." Zara nodded, her voice steady. "Welcome to Haven Station. It is one of the last strongholds of those who believe in peace." Sam pressed his face against the glass, his eyes wide. "Are those aliens?" he asked, pointing at a group of tall, insect-like beings walking alongside humanoid figures. "Yes," Zara said with a small smile. "Not all aliens are enemies. Many of them have been waiting for someone like you, Sam." Jack's stomach churned. He wasn't sure what unnerved him more, the idea of his son being some kind of savior or the thought of trusting these strange creatures. "So, what happens now?" he asked. "We regroup," Zara replied, "and we prepare for what's coming." The moment they stepped out of the ship, a crowd of beings turned to look at them. Jack felt the weight of their gazes, some curious, some hopeful, and a few wary. A tall, humanoid alien with blue, shimmering skin approached them, flanked by two smaller beings with glowing yellow eyes. "Zara," the blue alien said in a deep, resonant voice, "you've returned, and you brought him." "Yes, Thalax," Zara said, bowing her head slightly. "This is Sam, the one we've been waiting for." Thalax's gaze shifted to Sam, and his expression softened. "So small," he murmured, "and yet so much power." Jack instinctively stepped in front of his son. "Yeah, he's small, and he's just a kid, so let's not put too much pressure on him, all right?" Thalax gave a faint smile. "Of course. You must be his father. Welcome to Haven Station. You are among friends here." Jack wasn't sure he believed that, but he nodded anyway. "Thanks, I guess." Thalax gestured for them to follow. "Come, there is much to discuss." Inside the sanctuary, Jack couldn't help but be impressed by the technology surrounding him. Walls shimmered with displays of star maps, glowing crystals powered machines that seemed to defy logic, and the air buzzed with a faint hum of energy. As they walked, Thalax explained the purpose of Haven Station. "This is a refuge for those who oppose the Kraloks and their pursuit of the Lumina core. We've spent years gathering allies, building defenses, and preparing for the day the core would resurface. And now that it has," Jack asked. Thalax glanced at Sam. "Now we must ensure it does not fall into the wrong hands." The group was led to a central chamber where a council of aliens was waiting. The room was circular, with a large table in the middle displaying a holographic map of the galaxy. Jack immediately noticed the tension in the air. Some of the council members looked at Sam with awe, while others exchanged wary glances. One of them, a reptilian creature with sharp features, leaned forward. "This is the boy, the one who can unlock the core." "Yes," Zara said, stepping forward. "He is the key." The reptilian's eyes narrowed. "He is also a liability. The Kraloks will stop at nothing to capture him. Bringing him here puts us all at risk." Jack bristled. "Hey, he's a kid, not a liability. If you have a problem with him, you have a problem with me." The reptilian hissed but said nothing more. Thalax raised a hand to calm the room. "We all knew this day would come. The question is, how do we proceed?" As the council debated, Jack kept an eye on the room. Something about the atmosphere felt off. He noticed a shadowy figure lingering near the back, their movements too cautious, too deliberate. His instincts screamed that something wasn't right. "Zara," he whispered, leaning close to her. "Who's that over there?" Zara followed his gaze, her expression darkening. "That is Vrek. He has been an informant for the council, but I have never trusted him." Jack frowned. "Why not?" "Because he always seems to know too much," Zara said quietly, "and his loyalties are unclear." Later that evening, as Sam was being shown around the sanctuary by some friendly aliens, Jack decided to confront Vrek. He found the shadowy figure in a dimly lit corridor, typing something into a small device. "Hey," Jack said, stepping into the light. "What are you up to?" Vrek froze, then slowly turned to face him. "Nothing that concerns you, human." "It does when it concerns my kid," Jack shot back, crossing his arms. "I've seen your type before. Always lurking, always scheming. So why don't you tell me what you're really doing here?" Vrek sneered. "You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, do you? That child is more dangerous than you can imagine." Jack's fists clenched. "He's a kid, my kid, and I'll do whatever it takes to keep him safe." Vrek chuckled darkly. "You think you can protect him? You're out of your depth, human." Before Jack could respond, Zara appeared, her glowing eyes narrowing at Vrek. "Step away from him," she said, her voice like steel. Vrek smirked. "Ah, Zara, always so vigilant. But you cannot stop what's already in motion." Zara moved faster than Jack thought possible, pinning Vrek against the wall. "What have you done?" Vrek's smirk widened. "The Kraloks know he's here. They'll be arriving any moment." Jack's heart sank. "You sold us out." Vrek laughed. "You think you can save the galaxy with a child? You're all fools." Zara's eyes glowed brighter, and her voice was cold. "Then you've chosen your side." Before Vrek could respond, alarms blared throughout the sanctuary. The Kraloks had arrived. The final countdown. The sanctuary was in chaos. Alarms wailed, lights flashed red, and the hum of approaching Kralok ships sent a shiver through the air. The council chamber erupted into a frenzy of voices, fear and anger mingling as the alien leaders debated their next move. Jack stood frozen, his heart pounding as he clutched Sam tightly to his side. "Zara," he said, his voice tense. "What do we do?" Zara didn't hesitate. "We fight, and we run." Thalax stepped forward, his calm voice cutting through the panic. "We've prepared for this moment. Defensive systems are online, but they won't hold for long. We must evacuate." Jack looked around at the chaos, his jaw tight. "Evacuate to where?" "They're not just here for the sanctuary. They're here for Sam." Zara's glowing eyes met his. "That's why we have to keep him moving. If they capture him, they'll use the Lumina core to end countless worlds." Sam looked up at his father, his small voice trembling. "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" Jack knelt down and held his son's shoulders, forcing himself to smile. "We're gonna be okay, buddy. I promise." The sanctuary's main gates shuddered as explosions echoed through the corridors. The Kraloks were closing in. Zanara led Jack and Sam through a hidden passageway, her movements swift and precise. She tapped a device on her wrist, and a holographic map appeared, highlighting an escape route. "This way," she said, her voice firm. "We need to reach the docking bay." As they moved, Jack noticed aliens of all shapes and sizes rushing to defend the sanctuary. Some carried weapons that looked like glowing staffs, while others used strange devices that emitted shimmering energy shields. Despite their bravery, the odds looked grim. "We're leaving them to die, aren't we?" Jack said, his voice heavy with guilt. Zanara glanced at him but didn't stop moving. They know what's at stake. Their sacrifice ensures Sam has a chance to fulfill his destiny. Jack gritted his teeth. He hated the idea of people risking their lives for his son, but deep down, he knew they had no other choice. The docking bay was a scene of controlled chaos. Ships of all sizes were preparing for takeoff, while frightened refugees and determined fighters scrambled to load supplies. Zanara led Jack and Sam to a sleek silver craft that pulsed with a faint blue glow. "This is the Lumina Runner," she said. "It's fast and cloaked. It will get us to safety." Jack eyed the ship warily. "Safety? Where's that exactly?" Zanara hesitated. "The core itself. It's the only place the Kraloks won't dare follow us. But it's also where Sam must go." Before Jack could argue, a deafening explosion rocked the docking bay. The force threw them to the ground, and Jack shielded Sam with his body. When he looked up, he saw a gaping hole in the wall, and through it marched the Kraloks. They were monstrous, their towering armored forms glinting in the harsh light. Their leader, a hulking figure with glowing red eyes and jagged, blackened armor, stepped forward, his deep voice reverberating through the bay. "Zanara," he said, his voice cold and mocking. "You've delayed the inevitable long enough. Hand over the child, and I may spare the rest of your precious sanctuary." Zanara rose to her feet, standing defiantly. "You know I won't do that." Threx sneered. "Then you will all die for nothing." The Kraloks charged, and the docking bay erupted into chaos once more. Fighters from the sanctuary unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, but the Kraloks' forces were relentless. Jack grabbed Sam's hand and pulled him toward the Lumina Runner, but a sudden flash of light stopped him in his tracks. Threx had raised his hand, summoning a sphere of crackling red energy that hovered ominously in the air. His glowing eyes fixed on Sam. "Do you even know the power you carry, boy? You could end this war with a thought." Sam clung to Jack, his small voice shaking. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Threx laughed, a sound that sent chills down Jack's spine. "Hurt them? No, child. You would erase them." Jack stepped between Sam and Threx, his fists clenched. "Stay away from my son." Threx tilted his head, his expression almost amused. "You're brave for a human. Foolish, but brave." Zanara suddenly appeared beside Jack, her glowing eyes blazing with fury. "Jack, take Sam to the ship. Now." "What about you?" Jack asked, his voice tight. Zanara didn't answer. Instead, she raised her hands, and a brilliant wave of energy surged from her body, creating a barrier between them and the Kraloks. She glanced back at Jack, her voice steady. "Go. Protect him." Jack hesitated for only a moment before scooping Sam into his arms and running toward the Lumina Runner. Behind him, Zanara stood firm, her energy barrier crackling as the Kraloks pressed against it. Inside the ship, Jack strapped Sam into a seat and hurried to the controls. His hands trembled as he fumbled with the unfamiliar system, but the ship seemed to respond to his touch, lighting up and powering on. "Daddy, where's Zanara?" Sam asked, his voice filled with worry. Jack swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice steady. "She's making sure we get out of here. We'll see her again, I promise." As the ship's engines roared to life, Jack caught one last glimpse of Zanara through the viewport. She was still holding the barrier, her figure glowing with an otherworldly light. Then, with a sudden flash, The ship shot forward, leaving the sanctuary and the battle behind. Sam stared out the window, tears streaming down his face. She's not coming back, is she? Jack didn't answer. He couldn't. Destiny fulfilled. The Lumina runner sped through the void of space, the stars outside streaking into brilliant lines. As the ship entered hyperspace, Jack sat in the cockpit, his hands gripping the controls, his mind racing. Sam sat quietly in the co-pilot's seat, hugging his toy rocket tightly. For the first time since the chaos began, there was silence, but it was the kind that felt heavy, full of questions Jack didn't know how to answer. "Daddy," Sam said softly, breaking the quiet, "are we going to the core now?" Jack glanced at him, his throat tightening. "Yeah, buddy, that's where we're going." Sam's small voice trembled. "What if I mess it up? What if I can't do what they want me to do?" Jack reached over and placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "You don't have to be perfect, Sam. You just have to be you. We'll figure this out together, okay?" Sam nodded, but the worry didn't leave his face. Jack looked back at the controls, his heart aching. How could he promise his son everything would be okay when he had no idea what they were heading into? The Lumina runner dropped out of hyperspace, and the view outside the ship took Jack's breath away. They had arrived in the Andraxian star system, a region of space that felt ancient, almost sacred. At the center of the swirling stars was the core. The Lumina core wasn't just a glowing sphere like the holograms had shown. It was alive. Massive streams of golden energy spiraled around it, pulsing like a heartbeat. The sheer power radiating from it made the air inside the ship hum with energy. Sam stared at it, wide-eyed. "It's talking to me." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Talking? What's it saying?" Sam closed his eyes, his small face scrunching in concentration. "It says, it's waiting for me." Jack swallowed hard. "Okay then, let's not keep it waiting." As the ship approached the core, an automated docking system engaged, pulling the Lumina runner into a glowing platform surrounded by shimmering energy. Jack helped Sam out of his seat, his hands shaking. They stepped onto the platform, and Jack felt the energy from the core wash over him. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming, like standing in the middle of a thunderstorm. Sam, however, seemed completely calm, as if he belonged here. "Daddy," Sam said, pointing to a glowing pedestal in the center of the platform. "I think I'm supposed to go there." Jack looked at the pedestal, then at his son. "You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right here with you." Sam smiled faintly. "I know." As they walked toward the pedestal, a shadow fell across the platform. Jack turned, his stomach dropping. A Kralok ship had arrived, and descending from it was Threx, his blackened armor glinting in the light of the core. "You've led us right to it," Threx said, his voice like a growl. "I should thank you." Jack stepped in front of Sam, his fists clenched. "You're not getting anywhere near him." Threx laughed, a low, menacing sound. "Do you really think you can stop me, human? Step aside, or I'll tear you apart." Before Jack could respond, the core's light grew brighter, and a deep, resonant voice echoed across the platform. "Enough." Threx froze, his red eyes narrowing. "What is this?" The core spoke again, its voice powerful yet calm. "The child has come. The time has come for balance." Sam stepped forward, his small frame dwarfed by the pedestal. The core's light seemed to wrap around him, lifting him gently into the air. Jack's heart pounded as he reached out instinctively, but the core's voice stopped him. "Do not interfere. He is ready." Sam floated above the pedestal, his eyes glowing with the same golden light as the core. He spoke, but his voice was different, stronger, older, almost otherworldly. "You can't use the core for war," he said, looking directly at Threx. "It's not meant for that." Threx sneered. "And what would a child know about war?" Sam tilted his head, the glow around him intensifying. "I don't know about war, but I know about people, about love, about wanting to keep others safe." The core's energy pulsed, and Threx took a step back, his sneer faltering. "What are you doing?" "I'm choosing," Sam said simply. The platform shook as the core's energy surged. Jack shielded his eyes as golden light filled the space. When it faded, Threx was on his knees, his armor cracked and smoking. He looked up at Sam, his red eyes filled with something Jack hadn't thought possible. "Fear." The core's voice echoed again. "The child has chosen peace. The core is sealed." Threx snarled, his voice trembling with rage. You think this is over?" Sam floated back down to the platform, the glow around him fading. "It's over if you want it to be. You don't have to fight anymore." Threx stared at him, his expression unreadable. Then, without another word, he turned and disappeared into his ship. The Kralox vessel retreated, leaving the core in silence. Jack rushed to Sam, pulling him into a tight hug. "You did it, buddy. You saved everyone." Sam smiled up at him, his eyes tired but proud. "I just listened, Daddy. The core helped me." Zanara's voice echoed in Jack's memory. "This is only the beginning." Jack held his son close, staring at the core as its light dimmed. He didn't know what the future held, but for now, they were safe. And as far as he was concerned, Sam was the bravest kid in the galaxy.